Leftover lasagne.
Leftover lasagna.
Lasagna? No way.
It's a type of sandwich.
Some kind of gross pasta.
Leftover lasagna is a
podcast
hosted by
my
Nitin
church
and Tony uncle. Leftover lasagna.
Very funny name.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Leftover Lasagna. As the name of this podcast indicates, we are here to tell you exactly what you need to do when you have leftover lasagna in your fridge. And the right answer is throw it away. That's right. It is bad enough that you stuffed your face yesterday with the layered abomination that's made up of cheese, more cheese, grain, ground meat, sauce, sausage, and salt. Why would you want to do it again today? To discuss this key question, I have with me, as usual, Tony Sebastian for episode 44 of Leftover Lasagna. Hello, Tony. How are you doing?
Wait, what? Okay. Amazing intro.
What?
Okay, yeah.
By the way, this is how normal podcasts start their episodes, in case you have not noticed. You know. Before we head into today's topic, we will start off by going back to the new segment of Leftover Lasagna that we launched a couple of weeks back. This is the segment where we talk about strange and unique things that Indians do, which nobody else in the world seems to do. And Tony, I think you have an input today.
No, why Indians always, right? Is what we broadly named section. But I'll give you a nicer segue, which is the tweet of the year. This is a tweet by at Max Pratt, who goes by Puran Politics something. So the tweet says, Ozempic is how a Mallu guy compliments your display picture. Ozempic.
Ozempic, macha. Since we spoke about food and leftover food and stuffing your face with it to start with, and now we are talking about drugs, and more specifically about the GLP-1 drugs, which includes Ozempic. Today's topic is the business and moral and ethical quandaries around taking GLP-1 inhibitors. GLP-1 agonists, I think, is the more technical term.
So it's not GLP-1, it is GLP-1 inhibitor, is it? Oh, that is interesting.
No, it's not. It is actually, technically, it is GLP-1 imitator, right? So I'm actually a little confused by the names itself, but I think it's very easy to get stuck in the weeds with the science right now. So we'll keep it simple because...
No, but it's not an inhibitor. It is actually GLP-1.
It's not an inhibitor. It is the GLP-1 substitute, basically, yeah. We'll probably briefly touch upon the science, but we are going to talk about GLP-1 drugs today, most popularly known by the brand name Ozempic. Firstly, there are a bunch of these drugs, right? I wonder why Ozempic became popular, while there are other drugs like... I didn't even hear about this drug, which is called Monjaro, until much more recently. But Ozempic has been in the zeitgeist.
Monjaro we studied, no, in like history class back in the day. Excavations.
This joke is as old as the Harappan civilization, but yeah.
What does Ozempic mean anyway?
What does Ozempic mean? Good, let's Google. Why not? What?
Yeah.
It's just a brand name. Actually asking what does Crocin mean? That's it. It's a brand name.
Oh, that's a good one. What does Crocin mean? What does Dolo mean? Okay. Yeah, I think this is a very interesting question. Right? Like, what is going on in the world of pharma companies naming drugs? Right? Like,
I think pharma companies actually name drugs fairly well. I have no problem with the way
Crocin and Dolo communicate
perfect.
What it is.
They seem to suggest, it's medicinal, but it is whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Paracetamol. Yeah. What I don't understand is how car companies name their cars. I think I've mentioned this before. Hyundai Creta.
Okay.
What is the ex-showroom price of ex-Creta?
We basically reached that point where we say we all don't know why Ozempic. Ozempic was named what it is named. And also it is not GLP-1 inhibitor. It is actually GLP-1. However, there's GLP-1. Another thing that basically...
that inhibits GLP-1, yeah.
No, but basically there was this, I want to say, Radiolab episode where they are like, there is a thing called a Gila monster from which like this naturally produces the hormone. And Extidin 4 is basically similar in the Gila monsters. This thing in humans it is called GLP-1. That is the origin. Basically, all of these have come from Gila monsters. Basically, so anyway.
GLP-1 or glucagon like peptide 1 is GLP-1. It's actually a hormone that's or an enzyme that's secreted by the human body, and a very useful enzyme at that, which signals to the pancreas and to the brain and to the liver to do certain things that ensure that we don't end up eating too much of food, right? It helps control your satiety and your gluttony, basically. Unfortunately, the human body also generates
So
another thing called DPP4, which actually destroys GLP-1 within 2 minutes. That's like by the time you make Maggi, DPP4 has come, destroyed your GLP-1, so you eat a lot of Maggi. So,
So I think the origin of this basically is that if you wanted to treat diabetes, which you have to basically control how much insulin is released and at what point, instead of just like traditional treatments where you sort of take insulin etc. as an additional thing, what if you could sort of control the signal to your body? I think
which
that's
is
the
the blood
difference. Is
sugar.
that
Yeah,
this is a drug that is not. I mean, it's basically like signaling to various parts of your body to stop or slow down what they're doing as opposed to doing anything else. Right. So they first did it for the pancreas to make sure the insulin release etc. is contained. Which, like you said, this synthetically created GLP-1 as opposed to the one that body creates actually takes about a week for
yeah,
DDP4 to break down
to
instead of
destroy. Yeah,
2 minutes. So
correct.
as a result, basically what ended up happening was that this thing actually also signaled to the brain to say this is enough eating or something like that, and also to your what else, some other body part, and therefore we have all these knock-on effects which are quite interesting. Since you said we will only touch upon the science, I've explained it badly.
Basically, the pancreas, the liver, and the brain. If you can sort out these three things, actually, you're basically sorted for life with food. Long story short, Ozempic does a great job of ensuring that you don't stuff your face, which is pretty much the biggest challenge facing us right now, right? And if I were to extend the metaphor a little bit, the world is out there to get us with empty calories, with with dopamine release, with basically dopamine bait. We are basically living in an addiction economy, where attention economy is also addiction economy, where basically the way dopamine works is it gives you a big high, and so you crave the thing that gave you dopamine little more, so you do that thing again, whatever it is. The next time, the high that you get for the same quantity that you consume the first time is not the same, right? You get a slightly lesser high, but every successive time, what you do is you end up overcompensating. You end up increasing the dosage, potentially for getting diminishing returns. And that's the dopamine cycle, which we are stuck with.
And before you know it, you've started yet another podcast because the last one is not giving you the same kind of kicks anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. This is the problem.
Oh, it is a podamine addiction, not a dopamine.
Yeah. Sadly, we want it from our listeners, but no. Until that happens, we'll have to podamine ourselves. But that's what it is. So GLP-1, which I think in the last week has been in the news. I think they have now in India it has been approved for treatment of type 2 diabetes, right? Which is basically
Yeah.
lifestyle based diabetes, which is something that comes in later in life. Your insulin and blood sugar ratios go out of whack, and because of lifestyle changes. So now it's been allowed in India. In plenty of parts of the world, it's already available as not an over
Yeah.
the counter drug, but there are
Yeah.
plenty of people who have already started taking Ozempic and other GLP-1s in order to just improve their how they look and how they eat. In a
So
completely
there
unrelated note, there were recent pictures of Rohit Sharma, the captain of the Indian one day cricket team,
are.
that have been
Yeah.
circulating on the internet, and people have been widely speculating about certain cosmetic changes in his appearance. I'm only talking about his hairline, which seems to have changed, but other people are talking about other lines.
So just two things, because we are fully in danger of this becoming a very fact-based podcast, and we dove straight into the topic. Let me bring some random tangents here. Two things why this is pretty amazing is that if humans can control their own body and signals and craving and all of that, we'd be in a much better place. Except that the understanding that we have free will may not entirely be accurate. Right? There is this other Radiolab episode, which is like a complete eye opener, where this guy was a musician, and then he had a stroke or something, and basically he was about to be brain dead. So he said, like, whatever happens, just make sure like my musical thing does not get destroyed in the brain. Right? So they performed a delicate surgery and everything seemed fine, except some 6 months later, this guy was arrested for basically having child porn on his laptop. Right? And then basically the whole question became like, is this guy acting based on his own free will, or is it the brain damage or the result of the accident, basically? Right? Obviously, he was in jail for a
Yeah,
while.
yeah.
Then they basically gave him drugs that would numb or clamp down those signals that are being sent in the body, and then like he emerged successful,
Yeah.
as rehabilitated as much as you can be, right? So the thing is, like, as much as you want to, it's not easy for you to sort of control everything about your body. Obviously a controversial take, maybe, because then it adds on to the questions of who's responsible for any of their actions and so on and so forth, which we shall not get into. But the other one that I wanted to talk to you about was this thing called the Rosenhan experiment. Okay. Basically, this was this guy called Rosenhan, who wanted to check the validity of basically psychiatric diagnosis, right? So he sent like completely psychiatrically normal people to clinics and asylums, saying that they were actually had this diagnosis, etc., etc. Basically a bunch of pseudo patients, and just by virtue of them thinking that they are patients, they basically treated them as if they were, mentally
Real
disturbed patients,
patients.
etc., etc. Right? And then he published a study, and then they were like, "This is all bullshit. Like a trained psychiatrist would never make this mistake." And then he basically did the reverse. Told them, "Look, I'm going to be sending some pseudo patients to your clinics for over the next
And he
couple
said
of
real
months. Let us see if
patients.
you can catch." Right? And then what happened was all of these hospitals reported, yeah, 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 these are the number of pseudo patients you've sent us, etc., etc. And then he revealed that he actually didn't send any pseudo patients because he was just wanting to see that now that I've told you this, how will you react? Right? So the mind is a crazy thing.
Errors of commission and omission, basically. Yeah.
Okay. Who got the commission? So just to tie that up, the point being that if you like technically to lead a healthy life, if you don't have other afflictions, it is very easy, right? You just need to, you know, eat fewer carbs, eat more proteins, lift weights, and just do the same thing over and over again, right? But the point is that, like you said, dopamine is a big problem, and there is plenty of it in supply. So whatever you do, as long as you are not able to do the mental satiety thing, you're screwed. Which is why GLP-1, because it acts on the brain signals, the stomach signals, the pancreatic signals, you are fully in control as long as you're taking it, basically. And the effects vanish as soon as you stop taking them, basically.
Exactly. Because so the GLP-1 works, like we said, for 7 days, right? So every time you have a meal, for the next 7 days, potentially that drug is going to keep you feeling satisfied with what you've eaten, which means you can really control the amount of food that you eat. But we are still at a time where these drugs are not yet, really inexpensive. They're still quite expensive. So people can't really afford
Yeah.
to keep taking them, which means at some stage they come off the drug. And the moment they come off, unless they've made actual changes to the way they lead their lives, they quickly go back to putting on a lot of weight, because that's unfortunately how it works. And when you lose weight, also, it's not just, you don't lose just fat, you lose protein, you lose everything, basically, because you're also losing the interest in eating actual healthy food, right? The more interesting part that I found was, the bigger side effect rather, is while GLP-1 changes the way you eat, it also changes your mood. It changes the way you think, right? In general, it is
Hmm.
when you are not craving these things that otherwise we are sort of programmed to crave, it has a profound impact on the mental makeup of the person itself. So generally, you become less joy seeking in the world, and not just
Oh, okay.
the joy of food. Yeah. So people just become more boring, they become more withdrawn, they become more bored in general
Muted.
because they become more muted. Yeah, that's the word that I was going for, which is a very interesting offshoot, right? Like,
So when they come on Teams calls, they're like, "Hey, you're on mute," and he's like, "No, I'm not."
I'm on Ozempic.
Awesome pick, macha.
Yeah,
You're looking nice, but you're very muted.
it's impossible
Yeah.
to change one thing and not see downstream effects somewhere else that you would not have expected, right? Would you take Ozempic if you were given the
Oh,
opportunity,
it's an interesting
Tony?
question.
Let's say I gave you, let's say somebody sanctioned a 1 year supply of free Ozempic. Would you take it or not?
I don't know. I mean, see the diet part. I think I know I can control, but the stuff around what it also,
It's not just diet, no. It's all calories. So
yeah,
that
it'll
means your
stop.
vodka, your beer, everything is out.
Correct. Yeah. No, no, it'll also like make you seek addictions less, right? That's what the studies proved. Is that
Yeah,
you want to drink less, etc., etc. Right. So, in that context, yeah, maybe I would. I don't know. Depends on how much it is made available for.
that's of course one aspect of it, right? Let's actually dive straight into the moral question, right, of Ozempic. Like, if you see in the last 1 or 2 years, right, and including, and I specifically mentioned that Rohit Sharma example, for instance, and I think there was another very popular South Indian actress, right, Kushbu, who is generally been known to be on the plumper side, and there were some recent pictures of Kushbu and her
Hmm.
family where everyone in the family looked distinctly slimmer than they used to look earlier, and the immediate outpouring of commentary, right, on social media is that, oh, this entire family has got a family dose of Ozempic. So there is currently at least derogatory kind of tone that people take, right? Even if someone is actually
Hmm.
on Ozempic, so be it. At the end of the day, it is, people are taking it for their health, but the
Yeah.
attitude towards it seems to be one of mockery, or okay, this person is taking a shortcut which they can afford to,
Hmm.
and that's
Hmm.
something that's not something necessarily to be proud about, right?
God will punish.
No, no, God punishment. What is the God?
Suffering builds character.
You have to suffer to, yeah. No, but that's one aspect
Yeah.
of it. But there's more to it also, right? Like, I think it was what, 2008, 2009, when suddenly one day Harsha Bogle showed up on screen with a full mop of
With
hair.
hair.
From what I remember, one of the earlier big celebrities in India, of course, you had Amitabh Bachchan before that doing things and all of that, but Harsha was someone who was in your face all the time, and we'd gotten so used to him looking a certain way. And then one fine day, suddenly this fully bald gentleman has shown up with a full mop of hair. It took a while for the audience, I mean, physically to get used to someone whose appearance has changed so dramatically is obviously not straightforward. But there was also a lot of mockery and a lot of, hey, look at this guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, as if it's interesting how we react to it when people undergo any kind of, shortcut. Let me put it that way, for want of a better word,
Hmm.
cosmetic surgery or whatever that is, right? Something that is there to enhance their looks or
Yeah.
make them look different. There is a sense of, oh, this person has taken this shortcut, and that is not something to be proud about. I remember reading somewhere, I think it might have been Amit Verma who mentioned it, or on some other podcast, the very first person who got eyeglasses, right, would have experienced that same sort of reaction from the public, right? Because effectively, what are eyeglasses? There is some deficiency in the body which you use an enhancement to kind of correct, and to help you handle or deal with the world in a better place with more confidence, obviously, and in this case just directly see better. But over a period of time, we've gotten used to eyeglasses, and they're just accepted now as something that people need, and something that people will get when they need it. Or hearing aids, for that matter, which, again, that's a different type of stigma associated with hearing aids. But we are okay with people wearing hearing aids. We don't like, they aren't mocked for wearing hearing aids in the way people who get a, say, a hair weave, or some other kind of cosmetic procedure done on themselves. And I think that is now going to also extend to Ozempic, purely because of the fact that it is exclusionary to some extent, because it's not easily available to everybody, and it is more widely seen just as a shortcut. So, what are your thoughts on this?
No, so the reason why people are essentially saying this is because there is a natural way to reach the stage of weight loss, which is basically your entire study around calorific deficit, and then you count calories for a while, you take fewer calories, and you transform yourself, as it were, right? And then you sustain down that path where you are essentially sort of fighting your body itself and the cravings it is giving you, but you're reaching such a stage that it becomes habitual for you to follow it, right? And that is sustainable till some point where you're like, fuck it, like, and you go back and then you have to rebuild. So there is a natural way of doing this as opposed to the what is called the artificial way of doing it, which is by taking Ozempic, where you are taking a shortcut. But the essence of this is that what is the point of us living in a capitalist society if we don't use money to take shortcuts to what you would otherwise have had? So in
Yeah.
that sense, because our ancestors and forefathers had to cross rivers and walk 5 kilometers to go to school, doesn't mean we won't take an Uber or a school bus or whatever, right? So
Crocodiles. Walk on crocodiles.
I mean, I think it's a great thing, right? That there is options available for someone who wants to do it. Purely from a moral point of view, it is completely up to the person taking it, right? I think one of the, things that we touched upon a little bit is that obviously whatever you put into your body, there are side effects of it, right? One is, like you said, you feel a little more muted maybe, but also there are, I believe, other side effects of the drug, right? Like, I don't know, whatever you say, nausea, headaches, that, this, and all.
Yeah.
Because they've seen that people who've started taking this have stopped taking it within the first 1 year also, without actually there being any. It's not a financial decision per se, right? So on the medical side of things, obviously, none of this is health advice. Just clarifying is that this is not necessarily had enough of a longitudinal study to see what the long-term effects are either, right? So at this point in time, you are basically going by available studies at this point in time, which is how all science, I suppose, works. But the moral question, I feel like, is a, I don't know, to me it's straightforward, right? If someone wants to use money to feel better about themselves, why not?
You're right. It's not. I'm not. I'm not. I was not so much interested in your take on this. Rather, what is your take on the fact that the majority view is what it is, right?
Yeah,
I think both of us definitely stand on the same side on
correct.
this one. You want to do something to your body, go ahead and do it.
The interesting thing here is that you will always come back and say, I am not just doing this for the cosmetic reasons. It's also like helping keep my blood sugar in check. Apparently, it also
Yeah.
prevents heart attacks and stuff like that. So it moves from a purely cosmetic thing to medical based thing, right? Where you're saying that it also, by the way, makes me look better. So why not? But extending to what you said, right, in terms of like a hair transplant or like even like
Lip jobs.
lip jobs, yeah, or drugs that promise you diminishing hair loss.
Finasteride.
Yeah, so those things, is that worse off than like getting a hair weave or going bald, right? So it all boils down to the fact that at all points in time while you're chasing dopamine, you've also been sold a very specific kind of beauty image, right? That you always want to get to, right? As much as
Yeah.
lots of people say that I work out to feel good, etc., it is also to look good and take those Instagram pictures and all of that, right? So the majority view will continue to be what it is, but I'm all for it, man. Not that I hope I don't need to get a hair weave, but you know.
We all get haircuts, right? I mean, at the end of the day, what is a haircut? It is an effort to alter your appearance from what it naturally is, right? In order to look more attractive, right? And we've normalized that over the years. As a species, we are okay with people getting regular haircuts. In fact, we hope everyone will continue to get regular haircuts. I just find it
Yeah.
funny that the lens with which we look at haircuts is different from the lens with which we look at some of these other
Oh
cosmetic
yeah.
procedures, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, in that sense.
No, but
Um,
so the bigger question
yeah.
therefore is that if you are looking at it as a not necessarily a medical drug, it becomes a cosmetic drug, which is then you're basically creating a vicious cycle where you are creating an image of an ideal or a desirable body type, to which then you are creating drugs that will let you attain this desirable body type, which means essentially like, you can either, as a marketer, call it creating value or basically creating a wasteful set of addictions which allow pharma companies to mint money, right? So that's the real trade-off in my view. If you're
Yeah.
looking at it as a society, how is that going to be, right? Because this won't be the only thing that will come up, right? I'm sure there will be a pill that allows you to skip exercise altogether, right? It'll do for the body and muscles what exercise does, so you skip it as well. Yeah.
Have you heard of body contouring?
No, what is this? They stop living in Dubai. Every day we are learning some new nonsense.
Oh, Dubai is of course the capital of all kinds of cosmetic procedures.
Obviously. Yes, this is why Nitin looks the way he does.
I wish.
Hey, show your photo from 10 years ago. Da. You had glasses, you wouldn't get a haircut. You look less fit. Chumma quietly he went off to Dubai and then, yeah, unveiled his new version, hoping we won't notice.
You do all this so that people will notice only. Right? You want to get noticed. Yeah.
No. You started off. You had a lower resolution camera, so the difference in look wasn't that apparent. Then slowly you started increasing the resolution.
Drip by drip.
You boiled the frog, Nitin Sundar. We know what you looked like 10 years ago. Please, the real reason you are in Dubai. Yes, tell us.
Yeah. So body contouring is basically, you know how these ECG monitors and all work, right? Where they put these patches on your thing with probes and do whatever.
Yeah.
Or a simpler, actually, example, a closer example will be: have you ever got, the ultrasound physiotherapy done? Where if you have a lower back pain, for instance, they put these probes
Yeah.
which are vibrating and it gives you a lot of relief.
Yeah.
So body contouring is outwardly works very similarly to that, in the sense it's basically leads and probes that are stuck to your abs or your thighs, and they basically vibrate
Okay.
at a certain frequency. It's so if you do 45 minutes of that, right, it's equivalent to of having done say 5,000 crunches, right? If you had actually got to the gym and done 5,000 crunches, the same
What?
effect
Are
as
you
that.
serious?
Yeah. So it's at least that's what they claim. So, but it's basically a way to tighten your muscles, to
No, but then
work your
you will
muscles.
feel it in the body. No.
You will feel it in the body, yes. In fact, so what people do
Okay.
is, and this is real, before they go to the gym, right?
Go
So
to
you
the
go to
ice
the
bath.
gym, the gym workout always gives you a little more of a kick if your muscles are already
Correct.
primed in a certain way, right? So before they go
Yeah.
to the gym, they actually go and do a session of body contouring. And your Kaya beauty clinic, whatever, there are lots of these places that offer this as a service which you can pay and buy. So you do a session of that, and then you go to the gym, and then you work out, and then you come out with superb washboard abs and so on.
But like body contouring doesn't burn calories.
Does it burn calories? It works your muscles. I don't know. I've not done enough research into this. I don't know whether it burns calories. I don't think it burns calories.
Yeah.
But you can work your muscles without necessarily burning too many calories, right? The calorie burn is incidental. Sometimes when you do a heavy lifting session, you actually don't burn too many calories.
Does it still give you a runner's high? Do you post a selfie after?
Yeah, you will post a. What is the runner's high basically? Runner's high can be compensated by 25 people coming and putting amazing abs on Instagram.
No.
Right?
So this is why runner's high. Why people end up posting so much about running is that runner's high is not because of endorphins. It's actually some naturally created cannabinoid. So like you get the
Okay.
same effect as basically taking THC, right? So it is actually not endorphins. It is drugs.
Drinks. Yes, that's contouring. Have you heard of microblading, which is another procedure that people do?
Jediah blades.
Yeah, microblading is where you keep boring people with small bad jokes all the time. Though. So microblading is this procedure where they tattoo on your eyebrows. Okay, so suppose you have eyebrows that aren't very thick, but you want your eyebrows to look full and thick. You can do this process called
Wait,
microblading, where
what?
yeah, they actually tattoo on your eyebrows and make it look like you have more eyebrows than you
How is
actually do.
this? What is the market size for this?
You will be surprised by how big the market
What?
size is for this. Yeah. The eyebrow people do eyebrow microblading.
Okay, tell. You tattoo on them.
Yeah, they tattoo. Basically, they make your eyebrows look fuller by tattooing,
Okay.
eyebrow shaped.
Fill in the blanks.
Fill in the blanks is exactly what it is. And apparently, the effects can stay on for like 3 years or something. It's a tattoo, but not like a permanent tattoo kind of thing. It'll be strange if
Hmm.
suddenly the color of your eyebrows change, but your microblades are still black in color.
Yeah.
Salt and pepper eyebrows. But yeah, so this is another thing.
When I was talking about the pill that sort of mocks exercise, it's not theoretical; it's actually happening, right? So, just reading out from one website, the metabolic changes associated with exercise kick off the activation of specialized proteins known as estrogen-related receptors (ERRs), which come in three forms: ERR alpha, ERR beta, ERR gamma. After about a decade of work, El Jendi and his friends and his colleagues developed a component called SLUPP332, which activates all three forms, including the most challenging target, estrogen related receptor alpha. This type of ERR regulates exercise induced stress adaptation and other important physiological processes in the muscle. In experiments with mice, the team found this component increased the fatigue resistant type of muscle fiber while also improving the animal's endurance when they ran on a rodent treadmill. So basically, it could potentially counter the effects of other drugs, such as new weight loss medications that cause the loss of both fat and muscle, according to LGND. So take
Oh.
one Ozempic, take one ERR, this thing, then chill the
Hmm.
fuck out. You're okay.
To exercise is human, but to ERR is medical. Amazing. This is a good potent one-two combination. Yeah, where is all
Yeah.
this leading us though? Like, the
Just
more you
leading
think
us to the
about it.
last episode is that now if you don't have to worry about what you eat and exercise, you're
Yeah.
full of more existential questions. To say, what the fuck do I do with all my time?
Yeah.
It is
Yeah, if you take the
basically
joy out of
kind of a
eating
purpose.
also.
Oh, you're saying this doesn't put the joy back in eating, it actually takes it away, which is why you'll eat less.
This
Oh,
actually
okay.
takes the joy out of eating, no? That's the whole
Oh
point.
my
You're
god, huh?
craving
Okay,
food
now that's
less.
an interesting question.
Yeah, that's the bigger philosophical question, right? Like,
Yeah.
these are inhibitors, right? So they're inhibiting your appetite. They're not necessarily letting you overcome it, right? Of
Okay,
course.
so interesting one here is that as opposed to what I said earlier, I mean, over the course of this podcast, discussed in the past how I'm pretty sure I'm neurospicy. I've had ADHD all my life. And basically, once I've figured it out, I've obviously read up a bunch of literature around it. However, I've never once considered taking a drug for it because of the same thing that like it makes you go through life very, very muted. So basically, mm, makes your brain neuro bland in some sense, right? But it also has an effect of making you much more muted and stuff like that. So not once have I considered taking a drug for this, right? So yeah, I think there's a little bit of a lots of Catholic still left in me, I want to say. But also this whole side effect business is something that I want to
Yeah,
avoid, right? Like
yeah,
as
yeah.
much as your brain is troubled, would you want to change place with someone else, right? And the answer for me is no. So therefore,
So another angle to that same question is, right? We all know now, thanks to science, that sugar is the poison, right? We've spoken about it many times on this podcast.
imagine 30 years from now, new science shows that all the science was false and protein was the real killer. And we lost an entire generation to
Yeah.
protein overdose.
To,
Little did they know. They were all dreaming about 20-year health spans. But at the prime age of 65, all of them
yeah.
fell like flies
Popped it.
because of too much protein.
Too much of protein. And 30 years from now, you will have sugar supplements because sugar is not easily available anywhere anymore because it was so badly vilified. All sugar plantations, everything have died.
Destroyed.
So
Okay.
now, so now you basically get powders like protein supplements. You get sugar supplements. You add it to water, whip it together with
Yeah.
yogurt, and drink
You'll have
so
sugar
that you get
exhibits
it.
in museums, like, in the past, they
Fossils.
used this.
See, since we know sugar is addictive and it's a problem, there are people
Okay.
who just use pure willpower to stay away from sugar, right?
Correct.
And over a period of
Me.
time, your craving for sugar is significantly lesser than the average human being's is, or your
Correct.
own craving would have been
Correct.
earlier. In a sense, this is exactly what these drugs also do, right? Except they do it through drugs as opposed to
Correct.
pure willpower,
Absolutely.
right? So,
Where does the willpower come from? Is based on your combination of genes and whatever your body thing is, right? Which is why, like, for instance, for me, I can like stay off sugar as much as I want to. It's not something that I have a problem with. I also know that I won't possibly be a addict to smoking because of my family history. But at the same time, I also know based on my family history that like staying away from alcohol is a much harder thing for me to do. Right, the same willpower I have to avoid sugar or smoking does not kick in this particular thing. Right? So everyone's like coded a little bit differently.
Is that a self-fulfilling prophecy though?
No.
Where
Actually, you remember the time when I was insufferable for 2 months this year when I actually went sober, and I was saying, and actually, like it was not difficult to do once I got it into like the fourth or fifth week. It was just that life was very boring, and I remember asking some of you guys, right, like those of you who've like cut clean, like the problem. Sometimes I drink to make other people interesting, right? So this problem cannot be solved by myself. I don't think there is a self fulfilling prophecy. Every day, every few months, I wake up saying that I want to cut this, right? And I still have this app on my phone which is called I Am Sober, on which every week I will renew my pledge, and then next day I'll renew my pledge. Till like 2 weeks later, I'm having a drink again. So in that sense, it's a sheer lack of willpower, but it is obviously influenced by the way I've been genetically programmed, right? So that's what it is.
how do you know it is your genetic programming? There is no gene that there's no scientific study that says that the Sebastian lineage is predisposed to alcoholism in a way that other lineages are
Yeah.
not. Also, I am sober on an app, right? So you said the name of the app is
Yeah.
I am sober, and so
And
Ravindra Jadeja has the same app on his phone. That is why he's playing like Gary Sobers these days.
I have sobers. Okay. Fair.
No.
Therefore, I'm saying willpower to one thing does not necessarily extend to the other, right? I mean, my dad also cut sugar just like that one day. He also cut alcohol just like that one day, but like, I don't know.
Only for one day.
I don't know. He quit for 30 years.
Kidding. Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
My goodness, say more. And then he got back on the
Yeah.
wagon.
I got him back once.
That's all. Respectable
Full
sons
circle.
would. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah, so he quit
Like,
on
not a drop.
November in May 1994, I think. Uh,
My
but then he
goodness.
took to spirituality, and I would actually argue that he was
That
more
was worse.
insufferable when he was. No, not really, but you know what I mean. Like it becomes harder for you to like maintain social situations when you were like the party guy, and now it's like you're annoyed and you're like all spiritual and religious and stuff like that, and like other people don't get it and their actions annoy you, etc., etc. So therefore, yeah. Anyway,
From spirits
wow,
to
this has turned
spirituality.
into like
Yeah, you're right. Like some battles are easier for some people to fight other than it is for others, and those same people will struggle with other battles. So I've been trying to do this intermittent fasting thing whenever possible. Right, I don't do it every
yeah,
single day of the week. Broadly, I don't have a breakfast. Right, so that's something that has stuck. But on other days, on normal days, I actually find it easy. For instance, yesterday I play on Tuesday evenings. Right, so I start playing at about 7:30 p.m. The last 2 3 weeks I've tried this thing where I don't actually come back home and have a dinner after playing. So my last meal for the day is done by like 6:30 p.m. So the hack, by the way, to do good intermittent fasting is not to delay your breakfast or whatever to have a late lunch. It's rather to have an early dinner and get that block of sleep out of the way, which and then your sleep quality also improves if it's been a few hours since you had your last meal, and then you wake up and you can eat and you've anyway hit your 14 hours, right? So yeah, which I find very easy to do compared to the point is if you kept food in front of me or if there were snacks in the house, it would be so much easier to uninstall I am sober app and go on a
I
binge
think
late in the
we are about
yeah.
1 year away from becoming the kind of uncles who discuss what fruit to eat when to have best kind of motions. And like,
It's obvious, it's bananas.
wait, I thought papaya or guava.
No.
Anyway, but yeah. Overall, I mean, like, what it will essentially lead to is that it, the progress is inevitable, but the distribution is again going to be like the rich people get it and the poor can't even think about it in that sense, right?
which is always the case with everything
Yeah.
until things become mainstream, right? And then generics will come out, and you'll. I don't know
Yeah.
how long it's going to be before you get GLP-1 drugs for like 10 rupees, right? The way you get whatever Crocent or whatever for
Yeah.
very cheap. We'll eventually get there. That's fine. And if we are living in a world where it's filled with addictions and exercise is becoming tougher and less accessible to people for a variety of different reasons, maybe lifestyle, maybe just life and livelihood getting in the way. If there is a pill that can actually help you get somewhere with your health goals, then so be it. I think it's something to be welcomed and be happy about.
It's an interesting one because I think when we were discussing AI a couple of months ago, so I think the distinction that I want to make is that there are still things that you do. I mean, everything that you do results in shaping some form of character for you, right? Than other things. Going through an experience actually like changes you a little bit as opposed to sort of taking the shortcut for pills, right? At this point in time, should you use chat gpt or not is a different question. I think my answer broadly borders around whatever is like admin related stuff, right? I don't mind using AI for, but what I definitely don't want to use AI for is like to put my thoughts out into the world, right? So which means that if I'm writing down a piece of prose or whatever, it actually like ping pongs around in my head for quite a while before it actually comes down on paper, right? Even if I have most of the piece in my head, when I sit down to write, it's a very different thing that comes out. And I find that there is a lot of value in going through that process because it brings clarity to your thinking as well, right? Sometimes just catharsis of putting something down, but oftentimes it's like you asking yourself the question and saying, wait, this is what I really think, and then in the process of editing, like finding the piece and like putting it all together. Would definitely, I mean, you could just say that you can ask ChatGPT to do this for you, right? I mean, in bad manner probably, and then like edit and stuff like that. But it's not something that I find value in doing. I am still grappling with this. I don't know what the correct answer is, right? So, what shortcuts are to be glorified, what shortcuts are to
Hmm.
be shunned is going to vary from person to person for, and there can be, you can reason either way based on those things. Yeah, I gave you a whole bunch of nothing because I'm not clear of my take on this, to be honest. What's your thinking? Has your thinking around use of AI changed in the last few months since we discussed it?
I don't. I'm not really given it much thought, honestly. I do get very irritated when I see,
Yeah.
AI takes
Or
in
yes.
mainstream media or in social media
Yeah.
because they
Correct.
very clearly stand out. Because people also do a very bad job of masking the fact that they're just regurgitating AI slop sometimes. But otherwise, yeah, it's more of a nuisance rather than an existential question for me because I'm not in a position where I have to create too much stuff. So the threat of or the quandary of whether I should use AI or not is not something that I grapple with on a daily basis. But to the other question, I like the analogy that you've drawn here between doing something, going through the experience of it yourself, profoundly changes you in a way that a shortcut or a tool or a aid is not going to do it, even though the end results might look the same at the end of it. The far-reaching implications may not be quite the same. I like that analogy, and if I was given a year's supply of Ozempic, I probably, based on the evidence of what we have heard so far, and not so much going into the quandaries of what it means, what is the ethical call or whatnot. Without even going into all of those, I would probably do a hard pass on it for now, because I also don't think I'm at a place in life where weight loss or the cosmetic benefits of losing a few kilos is something that troubles me much at this point.
Oh, what a factor. Just been genetically blessed by these looks.
Genetically,
So
while
that
you were genetically predisposed to become an alcoholic.
correct.
What I-
Why you brushing aside my life story with him?
if I look at pictures of myself from, like you said, 10 years back, not even 10, if I go back to say 2010, 2012 types and see my photos from then, I can see how unhealthy I was back then. It is just incredible.
We also know.
Right? And in my 20s, I think I was in far worse shape than I'd ever been in life. And I ever was, thankfully,
We know you
afterwards.
moved to
Right? And
Dubai. All of these things happen.
I've been in Dubai for 3 years. What I- My point being, if I were given Ozempic back then, I might have probably taken it. I don't know. But
Oh, okay.
don't feel the need for
Interesting.
it now.
No, but I mean, again, so there are a lot of people for it whom it could be useful, right? Like if you're in other ways not able to,
Yeah, yeah.
given that like obesity etc can be a killer,
No, absolutely.
and
There are people who get
from
like,
you,
things like bariatric surgery, for instance, right? Which is just
correct.
to change the way the pancreas and the liver behaves. Like, you absolutely should get on those drugs if you can, if that is the challenge you're facing. Yeah.
I mean, I was basically saying that there is actual value in sort of shifting the blame from people saying you're a fatso because you're lazy to actually sort of helping them get back into a healthier version so that like their hearts etc are not affected, right? So you have to, I mean, basically the whole, there are two components to it, right? Like one is just the cosmetic angle, but the other is also the medical angle to it. And in both cases, like doctors, media, everyone has been blaming fat people for being fat for the longest, right? And
Yeah.
I do not necessarily think that's a done deal, right? It's not like, again, like we discussed, you're genetically predisposed to wanting some things more than others, right? And anything that helps in that, avoid shaming the person, I think is welcome only.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think your broad point is it's kindness is very underrated, and I think generally being kind to people who are going through their own journeys is okay.
Correct. And there's no problem if they have a shortcut which allows them to get to this place, basically.
Agreed. Yeah, whether that's body contouring or microblading or Ozempic.
Incidentally, I was home in Kerala this weekend and I have taken my parents to the gym and signed them up.
Oh, nice.
So, strength training and protein are going to be a part of
Very
their
good.
routine from now. Hopefully,
Very
it'll
good.
take 30 years to for the protein side effects to kick in. Instead, I would have to deal with the guilt.
The protein breakthrough that you never saw coming. Yeah, indeed. By the way, talking of liposuction, right? People don't talk about liposuction much anymore. Have you noticed?
Oh,
It was
they
the
used to before us.
it was the original big cosmetic enhancement procedure, right? Where people just would remove
There, the
fat from
problem
their
again
body.
was that you'd put back the weight on, right? Because you would eat again.
Actually, liposuction, I remember reading somewhere, there's a different problem with liposuction, right? So this is interesting. Do you know that the number of fat cells in your body don't change with time? You are born with certain number of fat cells, and there's a maybe a moderate increase as you grow up. But once you've
Yeah,
reached your adult stage in life, the number of fat
yeah,
cells in your body don't increase. What changes is the size of those fat cells, right? The amount of fat that gets stores inside your fat cells is what changes. Now, what
okay.
liposuction does is it removes fat cells from your body, right? So
The
you had
count
100
itself,
fat cells,
not
it
the,
reduces the count. It doesn't suck out.
okay,
The liposuction sounds like it sucks the fat out, but no, it just
correct,
sucks the whole cell out. And that
yeah,
has severe physiological negative impacts
obviously,
on the human body, apparently, because fat
yeah,
performs a very important role, right? It's one of the most important components of the immune system of the body. And just
yeah,
removing fat cells is not the answer. So, yeah,
yeah.
basically, I think people have moved on from liposuction because there are better ways to deal
Which
with.
was like a bariatric surgery, which is what, like make your stomach smaller so you don't eat more, stuff like
Correct,
that.
something like that. Yeah, this is like very sound scientific backed podcast where you just like it's like reduce the size
No,
of your stomach.
so the problem with Ozempic or any of these things is that, therefore, if you stop taking it, then you will inevitably go back to your previous sort of steady state, right? Eventually,
Yeah.
so that you can't overcome anyway, which means practically for life you might be hooked onto this if you
Oh no,
sort of got
Ozempic.
attached to a certain way of looking, etc. That's the problem.
Yeah, and the problem is that the only way you can find out is by walking through that door. If you then find that, oh shit, I've now become this boring person, who's
Yeah,
muted. Too bad, buddy. You're stuck for life. Or you go off Ozempic and you put back all the weight immediately. So
please
there you go.
unmute yourself. But so what do you think, I mean, is going to be like the future of this, like where do things end up, basically? So what all can medication cut out from your schedule? Now it's cut out exercise, probably it's cut out a lot of eating. What
Hmm.
else can be cut out, basically.
You know what? I would like to see technology coming in to cut out on medicines. If
Tell.
you can get me to stop scrolling on Instagram, that will be a great pop up pill. That'll just, make it. You'll start hating Instagram after that, or any kind of short form slop that you're otherwise hooked to.
Yeah,
That would be like
correct.
quite something, no? Imagine.
But this is
And
the
then imagine people
problem.
get
If
addicted to
it,
those drugs.
this is the problem is if it frees up time for you to do all this, like exercise, like that, this, and the other, you are stuck with the opposite of the Kurt Vonnegut problem, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
basically, this means that people are writing more on LinkedIn, people are making more podcasts, and
Yeah.
you're
Using AI
like,
to do it.
is this the future that we really wanted?
Yeah.
This is the problem.
Totally.
Yeah,
Because ultimately you will end up on Instagram, right? That's the like the question is how many
yeah,
steps do you take before you end up doom scrolling your way to death? Yeah.
yeah. And meanwhile, like mainstream media has been destroyed, so there are no more movies being made because it's not
Yeah.
profitable. No one goes to
Yeah.
movie halls anymore. OTTs will
Yeah.
suck because of censorship, that, this, and the other. We are already in the muted existence, Nitin. There is nothing larger than life.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Mutrix has gotten
The
us.
Mutrix has gotten us. Yeah. So I watched. You also watched this movie in the last week, One Battle After Another, which is Paul Thomas Anderson's recent film, which I watched twice. I've now gotten into this habit of rewatching films that I like, right?
Nice. Yeah,
Rather than watching everything that is out there, because while the number of movies being made and the amount of content being created has gone up exponentially, the baseline quality has devolved into whatever your lowest common denominator is. So it actually has become much more important now to be selective about what you watch and where you give your attention than it was before.
two things is I think you mentioned, I think a few months ago on this podcast only, how you've sort of taken to rewatching, rereading things that you've liked and enjoyed. And I don't know if there's causation, but I've also started doing the same thing, and there is
Oh,
tremendous joy in it, right? Because
yeah,
you've seen it a long time ago when you were a different person, and now
correct, correct.
because of like the things that you've been through, and you have the time and space to sort of enjoy it, it actually feels like a newer experience, and you're finding out or thinking about things that you didn't think of before. And also,
Yeah,
like, seems like a far cry to call watching a movie twice a slowdown, but in some senses it is that, right? Instead of like doom scrolling all of these things, if you can sort of sit through a 3 hour movie again, I feel like, yeah, there is definite value to this. So yeah, thank you.
that's where we've
You
reached.
mentioned this a while back, so
Yeah, we have reached the stage where watching a 3 hour movie has now become a virtue.
correct, man. This is what's happening. Come on, there there will be a pill for this eventually, which allows you to. There will be a pill for our kids which allows them to watch 3 hour movies without
Oh
complaining that
wow,
they're bored, right? One day this will
yeah.
happen.
I think the day Netflix launched their 1.5x whatever streaming and started promoting it, right? They actually asked people to
Yeah,
start watching movies faster,
yeah.
and yeah, I think that was the beginning of the end. And it's yeah, we
No, the
should
other thing that they did was basically telling all Netflix creators to factor for the second screen, right?
correct exactly.
Their whole research suggested that people are anyway watching Netflix with their phone in hand, therefore make dumber content, right? So
Yeah, which is
before,
easier to
I
consume.
think this is it, Nathan. Just get like the highest quality prints of the best movies ever made, because I feel like the content apocalypse is already on us. We are just gonna be stuck in the mutrix otherwise.
Which is the movie you watched the most number of times in a cinema hall? And what is that number? I watched only one movie thrice in a cinema hall.
Which one is it?
I'll tell you, but you go first.
Oh no, I don't think I've seen any movie more than twice. Yeah, two. There'll be quite a few movies I've seen twice, but
Quite a few. Yeah. So I watched Top Gun thrice in cinema halls.
yeah, you
Yeah.
mentioned this in
And
the intermission podcast because Dodi watched it 6 times.
Dodi. I don't think anybody has count of how many times Dodi watched it. But every subsequent watching of that film actually was getting better. Like I could I can see why people go and watch it like 6 times, 7 times and all. But yeah. I also watched it on progressively bigger screens. So that was
Yes.
also one
Progressively
notch.
bigger screens. Then you ran out of
Yeah.
screens.
There are around screens. First time I watched it at Inox Garuda Mall, which is one Satte theater in Bangalore. And
Yeah.
on some random screen
McGrath Road in the corridor of uncertainty,
in the corridor of
where
uncertainty.
traffic comes the other way.
Exactly. Where I also went out to pee in the interval for too long, and by the time I came back, the film had already started. The moment I miss like half a scene, it ruins the movie for me. Also, the scene that I
Yeah.
ended up missing was a very pivotal scene in the film. Not that it's relevant, but yeah, the one where Val Kilmer comes and meets Tom Cruise, and
Okay.
they have that heart-to-heart conversation. Right? Anyway, doesn't matter. The second time was in PVR in Bangalore, and the third time was in Washington DC in the what is that? The Aerospace Museum in Washington DC, where they actually have a big IMAX
Wow.
screen. Oh, don't ask me why. Yeah, and
Okay.
and they only screen movies that have like some aerospace correction or whatever. So, and Top Gun was
This is
obviously
like this is
the
like
flavor of the.
everyone seen Polar Express because it was the only IMAX film available or whatever. So we had to make the trip from
Really?
Warangal to Prasad's IMAX and watch Polar Express.
Polar Express.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't see Polar
Wow.
Express?
I think I saw Polar Express.
Yeah, IMAX. What was the first IMAX movie you watched?
First IMAX movie I ever watched was in a IMAX screen. I think it was The Dark Knight Rises. I think I'm not sure,
Sorry, what?
and I think it was in Bombay. The Dark
Dark
Knight
Knight
Rises.
Rises.
I think was the first IMAX. Yeah, I
8,
think that
9,
was
10, 9, 2008,
10, 11
9,
types. 10,
10,
11.
10. Okay.
Finish. Yeah, this was in your city, by the way. In what is that? IMAX Vadala,
Ah, yes. Which is where I
Bhakti Park.
saw one battle after another. Wow, full circle has happened.
Brilliant. Love it. Love it.
So here is what essentially I think we've briefly touched upon this, but I just want to explode it a little bit more. Is that if we started by saying, of course, the point of capitalism is to take a shortcut to everything, but we are making a distinction saying there are certain things that you still want to enjoy fully, right? Like there is obviously, if you are taking an analogous shortcut, there is what is it, Blinkist or some of this shit that will summarize a book for you in 15 minutes,
Yeah.
or like you can watch movies at 1.5x speed or just get the summary or whatever. But therefore, I mean, there is actual value in sitting with a book and plowing through the pages, right? And like reading all
Correct.
356 of them. Although,
Correct.
so I don't know. I mean, that's a dichotomy, right? How do you square that?
I think your mileage may vary is the answer, right?
Yeah,
I think both of us listen to podcasts at significantly faster
correct.
than is
Yeah,
acceptable. Right? Like 5 years back, if someone told me that I'd be listening to podcasts at 1.8x with all gaps removed, I would
yeah,
have told them like there's no way I would be able to process it. But now, if I don't, if I don't do that
yeah,
now, I actually find it too slow, and I find that in fact, I almost have a conspiracy theory that podcast uploaders on purpose slow down their podcast when they upload it because they know people are going to speed it up. So when you listen to them at 1.x, it sounds like they're speaking at 1x, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Because you should actually try listening to Seen and the Unseen, for instance, at 1x,
yeah.
and
I
you
know
will
what you
fall
mean.
asleep. You will absolutely fall asleep because
Yeah.
I think he slowed it down. I think he's actually slowed it down before uploading it, right? This
No,
is
I
the
think he
thing. Maybe we
slowed
should
down
also
his
do that.
speaking voice, possibly.
But he is then speaking at this speed where it is impossible for you to stay on till even the end of a sentence. Forget 7 hours of a deep conversation and a lovely community at the end of it. So, that's the problem.
Yeah,
That's how it
true.
sounds at 1x. Yeah.
I agree. You're not
So
wrong.
while you and me don't do Blinkist, we do podcast speed listening.
No, I think there's a difference there, right? Is that podcasts by default are not meant to be like an artistic masterclass. It's not been edited to like the degree that a
Unless it's
movie
leftover
or a
lasagna,
book
of
have
course.
been. The intent there is like natural conversation, which you can anyway sort of process at faster speeds, and you can go back and re-listen to bits if you don't want to, right? I'm guessing like at least some of our listeners in the last episode, when I started reading out what Kynes actually wrote, switched from 1.5x to 1x because A, I was reading faster, but B, also it was Kynes' considered words which he'd like sort of written in the form of poetry, as you said, Nitin. And I'm sure people would have slowed down to listen to it if they are listening at all. But
Or they would have come and
Just
skipped fast and gone to the end of it. That's also possible.
Yeah, I only want to listen to Nitin Sundar. Who is this guy in film? I guess, yeah, your mileage may vary is probably the correct answer. But genuinely, I feel like in life, as things slow down, there is value in sort of slowed down things as well, right? Like reading a book. The other thing that has happened to me after meeting Harish and I is now that I try to put away my phone as much as possible. Again, genetically predisposed for phone addiction, so don't blame me. So when I say that I put the phone away, it's like a little less than what other people would. So
I really want to see these studies that have been done on your family's gene tree to find out, genetically predisposed to phone addiction. It's like he's made it on
obviously,
condition only.
yeah,
What a guy.
correct.
I want to see. Liver doctor wants to see evidence before signing off on all this. Yeah.
Evidence based. Okay, so we've gone all over the place with the episode, but then you're editing and showing how it's done. Why they don't have to
So that they
like
can listen to
leftovers
it at
again.
0.5x and enjoy every minute of it
Yeah,
twice over. Yeah. Okay. Thank you
man.
so much for joining us on a binging session on Ozempic, and hope to see you again in a future episode of Leftover Lasagna. Please let your friends, family members, and enemies, especially, know about this podcast so that they can give us, all of them can give us 5-star reviews. Until next time, see you.
Yeah.
Bye bye. Take care from Nitin and
Once
Tony.
again, the next time we
Ah,
speak, you would be have
ah,
crossed the door from 30s into 40s. So happy birthday, Nitin
indeed.
Sundar. Happy 40th birthday. Big
Thank you so
milestone.
much, Tony. You mentioned that in what 10 years time or 1 year's time, we'll be those people who recommend timings for fruits which need to be eaten. I think I'm already there.
Next episode, Nitin will tell us. Best Motion Picture Award.
Indeed.
So happy
Okay.
birthday
Yeah.
and thank you for staying with us.
Thank you. Bye bye. See you next time.